I was 14 years old when my life split into a before and an after, and the place where it happened was an airport filled with strangers who had no idea I was about to be left completely alone. Until that day, I believed that no matter how hard things got at home, family was still family. I believed that adults told the truth, especially the ones who said they loved you. I was wrong. The lie started small, almost harmless. At least that's how it sounded at first. My stepmother told my father that I was stealing money, that I was lying constantly, that I was becoming dangerous. None of it was true. I was a quiet kid who spent most of her time reading or helping around the house. But lies have a way of growing when they're fed fear and anger. Every time my father came home tired from work, she would add another detail, another accusation, another reason why I didn't belong anymore. I didn't know any of this was happening behind closed doors. To my face, everything seemed normal. Then one evening, my father told me we were taking a trip to visit a relative. I remember feeling excited. We didn't travel much, and the idea of an airport felt like an adventure. I packed my small backpack carefully, folding my clothes the way I had been taught, making sure not to forget my favorite sweater. At the airport, everything felt loud and overwhelming. Announcements echoed, people rushed past with rolling suitcases, and the smell of coffee mixed with something metallic and cold. My father bought me a drink and told me to wait while he handled some paperwork. I sat on a plastic chair, swinging my feet nervously, watching planes take off through the glass windows. Time passed. Minutes turned into an hour. I kept checking my phone, but there were no messages. When I finally stood up to look for him, my heart began to pound. I walked back to the spot where we had been sitting. He wasn't there. I walked to the bathroom. I checked the small shops nearby. Nothing. Then my phone buzzed. The message was short, cold, final. Stay there. You're not coming back home. Don't call. I read it again and again, not understanding. I tried calling him immediately, but my call went straight to voicemail. I texted back, asking what he meant, asking if this was some kind of mistake. There was no reply. That was the moment I realized the truth. I had been abandoned. At 14, you don't have words for that kind of fear. It sits in your chest like a heavy stone, making it hard to breathe. I felt invisible and exposed at the same time. People walked past me laughing, arguing, hugging goodbye, while I stood frozen, clutching my backpack like it was the only thing keeping me from falling apart. Eventually, airport security noticed me sitting alone for too long. A woman in a uniform approached me gently and asked if I was lost. I tried to be brave, but my voice shook as I explained that my parent had left. Saying it out loud made it real, and I started to cry in a way I couldn't stop. They took me to a small office and offered me water. Questions followed, names, phone numbers, addresses. I gave them everything I knew. When they tried calling my father, there was no answer. Hours passed. The airport that once felt exciting now felt like a cage. That night, I was taken to a temporary shelter. It wasn't a bad place, but it wasn't home. The bed smelled unfamiliar, and the silence felt too loud. I stared at the ceiling, replaying every moment of the day, wondering what I had done wrong. That's what kids do. We assume the fault is ours. In the days that followed, the truth began to unravel. Social services contacted my father, and that's when the lie finally surfaced. My stepmother had convinced him that abandoning me was the only solution, that I was a problem that needed to be removed. Hearing that broke something inside me, but it also planted a seed of determination I didn't know I had. I was placed with a foster family who, for the first time in a long while, treated me like I mattered. They listened when I spoke. They asked how I felt. They didn't accuse me of things I hadn't done. Slowly, the constant knot in my stomach loosened. School was hard at first. I felt different, marked by something invisible. But I threw myself into my studies. Books became my refuge, learning my escape. Every good grade felt like proof that the lie told about me wasn't true. Years passed. I grew older, stronger, more sure of myself. The pain didn't disappear, but it changed shape. It became fuel. I promised myself that what happened at that airport would not define me as a victim, but as a survivor. When I was 18, I tracked down my father. We met in a quiet cafe. He looked older, smaller somehow. He apologized, tears in his eyes, saying he had believed the wrong person. I listened, but something had shifted inside me. Forgiveness, I learned, doesn't always mean rebuilding. Sometimes it just means letting go. Today, when I think back to that 14-year-old girl sitting alone at an airport, I wish I could tell her that she survives. That she grows into someone strong, independent, and unafraid to stand up for herself. That the brutal lie meant to destroy her life actually pushed her to build a better one. Being kicked out at 14 and abandoned at an airport was the most terrifying moment of my life. But it was also the moment I learned that even when the people who are supposed to protect you fail, you can still rise. You can still choose who you become. And sometimes, the place where you are left behind is the very place where your journey truly begins.